Oh, wow. Oh, wow, y'all. Is Citizen Sleeper. It's the Sleeper. Who is a citizen? Heck yeah. Look that way. Look that way. Look that way. Hi. We're going to play some more of this video game. Because it's a very good video game. And I hope you'll come along for this fun journey. I say fun. There's some tough stuff, but we get through it. You know? We get through it. And it's not in there just to be awful. It's there so we can overcome it, you know? That's what being Citizen Sleeper is all about. In my opinion, Charlie Brown, that's the true meaning of Citizen Sleeper. Overcoming things, not just through our own efforts, but through working with those that we find in the community around us. I have forgotten what we were doing. I need to wait for Sabine to make contact. That's the one I really want to focus on. Because I think I have finished 2 of these plot lines. Oh, one of them that I finished isn't even on here. Interesting. I finished one of these plot lines. The others I don't know, but I do want to finish this one because it goes some places that I really want to show off for y'all. Find a nurturing grow bed for the seed. Nope. Might need to gather some beautiful spores. Oh, I do want to harvest some mushrooms. Take Girl and some club heads. How many more club head do I need? I need 1 more after this. Let's go ahead and turn this one in. Let's see if we get it with a 5. We didn't, so I want to make sure we get a positive outcome here. Want to get the posse. We didn't get it there either. Okay. That's alright. Do I have any spores? I don't, so I want to find some more spores. I got 1 from a neutral. We have food. We have enough condition. We're good to do this. Ugh, we were okay to do that. Oofa doofa. Let's go get mushroom snack then. Oh. Emphas is preparing the matsutake caps. He cleans them carefully with a damp cloth before shaving the stalks as if he was sharpening a pencil. His knife slides through them, revealing the bright white of the flesh within. These are good, Sleeper. Very good, he says without looking up. I bartered with Mingi for some kelp, too, so we can brew the dashi. You know Mingi? Emphas looks up from cutting with a smile. Everyone knows Mingi. Emphas slides the sliced matsutake mushrooms to one side and takes out a closed pan. He opens the lid and you see the green wafer of kelp sitting in a bath of water. Been soaking it since last cycle, Emphas explains. Should be good to warm now. He places the pan over the burner and turns it on low. We have some time now. He wipes his hands clean and throws the cloth over his shoulder. However, there is one difference, his cycle. He smiles. You have been the one providing the ingredients, so it is my turn to provide a story. Okay. Good. This story is important to me. He gestures for you to both sit on the folding stools behind the stall. You see these? Emphas runs a hand over his forearm, tracing the circular scars that mark them like perfect bite marks. Conway called it an anchored interface rig, a mechanical control device for piloting a heavy-duty extraction suit in low-G industrial operations. We called it a bone suit. He points to a pattern of larger circles on his shoulder. They drill in and anchor it here, then all the way down the arm. He taps each scar on the way. It maps mechanical movements to the suit exactly, a one-to-one mechanical replication. You swing your arm, a 2-ton arm swings too. You should have seen the recruitment vids. Strong people in even stronger suits, tearing through stone and scrap. Superheroes. Half my graduating year signed up, from company school to company shuttle. Conway from birth to death. He stares off into the distance for a moment, fighting with the memories. But the bone suits weren't good. The rate of failures was high, and failures meant arms torn off, anchors torn out, broken bones. Bad stuff. So, after a while, Conway discontinued them. No longer competitive, they said. He checks the broth, turning down the heat and adding the mushrooms. So there we were, hundreds of us with surgical alterations for suits that didn't work. They sent us home, back to that company colony that spat us out to be cleaners, drivers, cooks. They gave us drugs for the pain and told us to make something of ourselves. When I deserted, bribing some passing spacers to take me into orbit, there were only me and a couple of others left. The rest just faded away. Arthritis, osteoporosis. They folded in on themselves like paper lanterns. That was my generation. The anchor points still ache, still burn. He touches the scars. But what burns worse is the betrayal. I've been on the eye a long time now, but that will never fade. Not that, and not the faces of my friends. Emphas reaches over and sprinkles a handful of leaves into the broth. It is ready. Can't I say both? I'm sorry and thank you? Which one is more important? That's what the game wants me. I'm sorry. Don't be. It was Conway's crime. And you know better than most what we went through. It is enough that you are here to listen. Emphas pours the broth into a double-walled metal bowl and hands it to you. The heat radiates through your hands, and the smell drifts up, rich and sharp, like a pine forest after the rain. You drink the broth slowly, chewing the matsutake and thinking. Emphas busies himself with cleaning the pans in the bowl, sealing the kelp back up for another day. Then he quietly comes to sit with you while you finish your meal. Neither of you speak, preferring instead to let the story linger in the air a little longer. It is not that there is nothing to say, it is that sometimes, in the moments after saying something, speaking breaks the spell. So you both idle, eager to be in each other's company, Emphas taking longer over his cleaning, his packing, and you savoring the final dregs of broth. When you finally finish and hand him the bowl, you feel the spell break, and the story leaves you both. And as you leave, you know that both of you are somehow a little more empty and a little more full than before. Especially that energy. Ooh, that was a good timing on that tasty meal. I traded food and stories with a local to get the achievement Story Eater. I'm still in a dream Story Eater. Do I save up for interface or do I get one of these? I could also save up for engage. I have a lot of scrap components, I feel. Let me check. Only 3. You know what? Yeah. Waiting for that. 2 more cycles. Yeah, we can take 4 dice this cycle. It's gonna be okay. I do want to start on this one. You came. Peak smiles as you walk into the Climbing Briar's cargo hold, behind a gloomy Esh. They brought mushrooms. Esh tosses the mushroom caps onto a crate, raising her eyebrows at Peak. Peak gives her a look. Thank you, Sleeper. They pick one up and sniff at it. Are these edible? Yes. Peak turns the cap over in their fingers before putting it down. We're not so used to fresh produce. Esh is securing crates as she speaks and doesn't look up. Hawthorne doesn't have much in the way of farming. They are an acquired taste. I'm sure the refugees will acquire it. Esh wipes off her hands on a rag. Most of them are from Ember's moons, so they are used to eating green and growing things. Not like us XPR roughnecks. XPR? This an interrogation? She glares. Either way, we are done with that place, which is all you need to know. Esh leans back against the crate she was securing. We are going to need more than a few mushrooms if we want to help those refugees, though. What do they need? Food, water, components, a whole lot of things. Esh stands and walks over to the mushrooms you brought, placing them into a small container with care. The problem isn't just getting supplies, it's getting them to the ships. Can you speak to Havenage? We aren't exactly welcome guests, Peak explains. If anyone figures out that we came in with the refugee ships, we'll be quarantined as well. Why is there a quarantine? Peak jumps in. The Eye has a closed-loop life support system, just like any orbital installation. Any unfamiliar illness or significantly increased strain on life support could cause a cascading collapse in its systems. Esh scoffs. Are we making excuses for these bureaucrats now? Peak turns. We are being realistic, Esh. But these people aren't an increased strain. These are living people, Esh stares at you. Even calling them refugees is just a way of turning a lot of scared, desperate people into a single, monolithic group. Imagine if that had real-life implications. Imagine that. Imagine someone calling refugees as a means of dehumanizing them. Can you even picture such a thing? Esh slides the container full of mushrooms into one of the cargo hold's racks. Look, as much as I'd like to chat, we still got a lot of space to fill in this hold, so if you are going to help... I think Esh is trying to say we need your help, and quickly, Peak says, glancing at her. The refugees behind the cordon. They won't be able to hold out indefinitely. We need to get supplies to them in the next 12 cycles, or... Esh steps forward. Or Havenage will have to bear the responsibility for whatever happens next. What can I do? There's 3 things we need to secure. Water, food, and scrap components for ship repairs. Esh gestures to the storage containers around the hold. Water we can find a way to source, or, my preference, just siphon off from the underground reservoirs in the Greenway. Peak raises their eyebrows. Esh. She ignores them. For food, things could be tricky. Those mushrooms are delicious, I'm sure, but no way we can get enough volume to feed a flotilla. However, I saw an algae stack on the way over. If we can get access. No more stealing, Esh, Peak sighs. Not more stealing. I didn't say steal. She stares at them indignantly. If we can get access, we can work the stack. Harvest some algae for the flotilla. Those stacks churn out vast quantities in short timetables. And the repair components? Peak asks, tentatively. Esh smiles. Just look around you, Peak. This whole place is made of scrap. She shoots you a glance. And I'm sure the sleeper has their sources. They can bring them right here. We get everything before time runs out? Perfect. We get most of it? Also good. Either way, in 12 cycles, I'm going to take what we have and go. But how will you get through? Esh shoulders a container. I thought I'd leave that up to you, Peak. They flinch. Are you serious? Esh, I know we said we would help the flotilla, but at what point? They take a breath. Stop. Take this seriously, Esh. I don't know the first thing about breaching a quarantine cordon. Maybe not, Esh looks at you, but they might. They slipped out from an SNR facility, didn't they? Plus, they've been here longer than us. You are always trying to get me to find help. Well, here it is. She gestures at you. Help. Peak glances between the two of you. I swear to... They sigh. I need to think this one through. Meet me at the cordon in a couple of cycles, Sleeper. Maybe we can figure something out. Meanwhile, Esh meets your eye. You can help me acquire the supplies. Discreetly. She smiles. We have to keep this quiet. Keep Havenage out of the loop. Once they get suspicious, this is over for all of us. This all suddenly seems a little too real, too dangerous. You've only just found your feet on the eye. This is not a time for causing trouble. Come find us. We'll be out there trying to pull this all together. Esh goes to the back of the hold to start packing another container. Peak, come help me. Peak glances back at her. Sleeper, look. We didn't choose this either. They lower their voice. Help us finish this. We've set up a base camp on the Broken Spoke. You're welcome to rest there in any of the cots while we work on this. They smile. We are in this together. Wrong portrait. Just pointing that out. Peak, Esh shouts, as they walk back into the hold to help with the container. As you leave the climbing briar, you look out at the broken edge of the eye's ring, where Havenage's cordon blinks with tiny red lights. What are you getting yourself into? I need a bunch more scrap. Okay. It's 2 cycles away. I have the reroll function. I had forgotten about the reroll function. Yeah. That's one. Okay, so that's going to take time. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. I need scrap. That's the big thing that I need to acquire. Is the scrap. And guess what? It's a scrap freighter. Yeehaw. Aw, ship mind. 2 of them? Ugh. Disappointed. Is there somewhere else I could get scrap? I think I can steal some for a limited amount of time, but I don't really have the energy to do that. I think I can do this and maybe get some scrap, but that's not great, mostly because I don't have my optimal odds with this die. Worst case scenario is a neutral, yeah. Take a neutral. I'll take a neutral most days of the week. Let's do a stabilizer because we're going to need all the dice we can get. Ooh, interesting dice. Hey, Sabine. 4 cycles, Sabine said, and here you are, right on time with no sign of them. You wait a while in the apartment, the dread descending as the cycle spins onward. They should be here. Just wait. You try to settle down, to wait. You sit on the bunk and stare out at the tiny room. Where the hell are they? Check the door. You pace back and forth around the apartment, the rumbling of the station suddenly so present and loud. You go to the door and open it to an empty corridor. You close it again. You check and double the terminal for messages or recordings. Nothing. Just the pale glow. The silence. Aubrey's here. Hi, Aubrey. And we have hydrated. Thank goodness. It's easy to forget that it's Tuesday again. I completely understand. But there's a knock at the door. We're at Sabine's apartment waiting to meet up with Dr. Sabine. There's a knock at the door. Let's wait a moment, see what happens. Another knock. Open it. A figure stands in the door, and immediately you know it is not Sabine. They are taller, sharper, and something in their face glints in the half-light. A dark shape like a stubby baton hangs loosely from her hand. Our local sleeper. Good to finally meet you. She steps into the apartment, glancing around with sharp eyes. What, may I ask, are you doing here? She fixes you with a steady, unwavering stare. Stay silent. This will be much more pleasant if we remain friendly, don't you think? She walks past you into the apartment, glancing around. We set them up here, you know. This place is one of ours. She picks up a glass from the dispenser and inspects it. People always seem to forget who put them where they are. She glances at you. And I suppose you are here to help? Where are they? As Aubrey asks, where are they? I was hoping you would be able to help with that. She spins the baton in her fingers by her side, her eyes not leaving yours. We have a problem, you and I. It seems our friend has disappeared, left without even saying goodbye, which means they are in a little trouble now. But it's the kind of trouble that you need help for, so I thought I'd come down here and take a look at their hidey hole, and here you are. The help. She looks through the detritus on the side. And what help, a sleeper no less, which I have to admit is a little surprising, It suggests to me that our friend hasn't been very honest with you either. What do you mean? Well, I'm sorry to report that before we got them set up here, Sabine was working for your owners. She pauses. S and ARP. You blink hard at the news, unsure how to take it. Rabia looks away, waiting for a response. Stay silent. She crosses into the next room and you follow silently. She sits at the terminal and touches her baton to one of the access points. A spark, then the terminal screen skips, encrypted folders emptying themselves before your eyes. In the flicker of files, you see SNARP letterheads and code forms, reports laden with medical data marked with the corporate logo like a sigil of some cult. Rabia steps away from the terminal. Look all you want. Some of your files may even be there. The volume of documents is overwhelming, but they seem to be mostly reports on early emulation tests. Surveys with sleeper candidates, reams and reams of usage data. If Sabine was an SNARP employee, why did they help you? Rabia reaches over and places a vial of stabilizer on the desk, breaking your concentration. It shimmers in the screen light, its viscous, clear liquid crystalline within the glass. We will, of course, keep up the supply. We are more than able to dispense important medicines even without the doctor. You hold it between your fingers, and for a tiny moment you have the urge to crush this object for the power it has over you. I'll ask Toshiro to make those a little cheaper for you. He'll be running the surgery now. Rabia closes up the briefcase lab and holds it at her side. We have to retrieve our assets, of course, but I'm sure you understand. Rabia turns on her way out. There is no reason for us to be enemies, Sleeper. Come see me. I keep an office nearby. We have good work to do, you and I. Meet me there in a few cycles. She slips out silently into the corridor. You look around the apartment and feel the fear drain out of your body to reveal the tiredness beneath. Upgrade point. We just spent on self-repair, so we can't get anything right now. Two cycles to wait for that. Dun dun dun. You know what? Now that I've got the good dice, I am going to steal. Don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone that I'm going to steal. Well, that's some scrap. Let's try it. Neutral. Oh. Can't do that anymore. We had our fun. We got some scrap. And now we're not allowed to work there. Just because we stole. Just because we stole from them, I think they're being unreasonable. I can gather scrap here. Okay. Ooh, that's an energy hit. No one squealed about stealing, thankfully, but they found out anyway. Ah, beans. Ah, golly gosh. This is just another place I can sleep, which is good, but I don't need it right now. Let's accelerate a growth. So next cycle, that'll be completed. Let's work to get some energy. We got 3, because sometimes when we do an energy thing, we get a boost anyway. Normally it'd be 2, but we got 3. I'd love to see 5s. 5s are just as good as 6s for most cases that I need them for. Sleeper. Peak catches your attention from the shadowy corner they were leaning against. Any trouble getting up here? None. Good to hear. Come, take a look at this. They beckon you over to a nearby window, which looks across the ruined ring to the blinking red light of the Havenage cordon. Oh, we're hydrated. Oh, we're so hydrated. The cordon's temporary structures, a net of metal struts meant to detect and dissuade any ships from entering or leaving the flotilla, jut out into the black. And all around, the tugs flit, securing them in place and tending to the red blinking drones that demark the quarantine. It's an impressive and worrying sight. What do you think? Peak interrupts your thoughts. How would you get through? Poor Peak misspelled their name. How would I get through? Well, we need to get supplies through is the thing, so we need to think about this. Create a distraction. It's not a bad idea, but what kind of distraction is big enough to get everyone to look away from a ship as big as the Briar? Peak squints at the red lights. Surely they'd spot and seize the ship. Peak turns away from the window and rubs their forehead. Ash has really wrapped us up in something here, hasn't she? The question is spoken under their breath, and they don't seem to expect an answer. The silence grows. Why are you helping the flotilla? Peak looks up. You don't think it's a worthy cause? They pause. We ran into them when we escaped Hawthorne. Ash insisted we investigate their distress signal. I'm not saying we shouldn't have. Peak stares out the window at the blinking, distant lights of the arrived ships. It's just... Peak brushes back their hair. Forget it. Let's focus on the plan. They flash you an easy smile. It doesn't matter why. We are the ones who are going to help them. The way I see it, there are 3 parts to making it through that cordon. They gesture out the window at a strange structure. Deception, distraction, and speed. We'll need all of them for a clean passage through. Deception means tricking the cordon security into thinking that we are meant to be there. Maybe a tug escort would work? Anything that makes the Briar look official. Distraction, meanwhile, will be all about diverting attention so that nobody looks too hard at what the Briar is doing. If we can create a gap in the cordon's scanning and deterrent systems, that should keep them busy. Finally, speed will mean making sure the Briar is ready to roll. Perhaps we can do a little work on the ship to get her ready. Esh surely wouldn't mind. They lean back from the window. How does that sound? I mean, none of these are wrong. The thing is that none of these are wrong. Is this an important thing that I've been sent? Probably not. Let's see. Hopefully it can wait. Excellent. You know, optimism. Let's try optimism. Peak grins. Don't get too excited. There's a lot to get sorted before we make the run. Peak looks down at their slate. 10 cycles left. They glance out of the window at the cordon nervously. 10 cycles to gather the supplies and to prep this plan. It's tight. Very tight. Peak looks at you. If this goes wrong, just get out, okay? They squeeze your shoulder. I'll follow Esh anywhere, but you don't need to get dragged down with us. It won't come to that. Peak brightens up a little. Of course, but just keep it in mind. Let's get to it. Peak stretches. I'll tell Esh about the improvements to the Briar, and the rest, let's explore the cordon as best we can and look for openings. Peak smiles. I have no idea what guardian angel sent you to us, Sleeper. Peak smiles. But I'm very glad they did. Let's get some intel, baby. Okay. It's gonna be a lot of work. My goodness gracious. Good. Okay, I want something that has a +2, so I have at least reasonable chances of success. Can't remember if any of these were or not. Yeah. This might be bad, we'll see. Not good. I knew that was a possibility. And it's not awful. Just means we're gonna have to fix it. Ain't that just the way? Drackley's here. We got the Sleeper, who's a citizen? We do love a reasonable chance of success. This is true. You can write that in a book. Be okay with that for the moment. Take that 6. Yeah, hub export. Escort. Export. Bad dice. We can use a 1 on food, I guess. Let's see. Oh, that could hurt me for 2 condition. We're gonna try it. We're gonna try it. Yeah. Took a hit to energy, but that gives us the scrap we need. Fortunately, we don't have to put it in 1 at a time. You look over the pile of scrap components lying in the Briar. You look around, the bay is empty. Esh and Peak either elsewhere on the station or on the bridge a couple of levels up. You begin sorting through the pile, separating out useful components and boxing them by use. You don't recognize everything you find, but before long you get into the rhythm of sorting. As you do, your mind starts to drift, your attention being drawn into the dark corners of the bay. The Briar is in surprisingly good condition, considering that Hawthorne and XPR must have been operating it for decades by now. The marks of care are everywhere, from the delicate patch jobs polished to meld into the original finish, or the carefully bound wiring running through custom trunking. Esh loves this ship, that much is clear. Something catches your eye in one of the dark corners, a matte black stack of crates you hadn't spotted before. They are sleek and compact, tucked away behind some of the bigger, more worn containers. We haven't been told not to poke around. You put the components away and go over to the sleek crates. You run your hands across their textured surface, but there is little hint of what lies inside in the opaque, metallic casing. Then you see it. A yellow symbol embossed onto the far side of the crate. A universal sigil used by spacers, corporations, and manufacturers alike. It's one you have seen throughout your time as a sleeper, its meaning all too familiar. Explosive contents. You hear a hiss and Esh comes up through the bay's lock. She barely registers your presence, nodding at you as she passes. Sleeper? She busies herself with some task at the back of the bay. Hey, what about these crates? Esh doesn't turn around from whatever she is busy with. Just more supplies, Sleeper. Like everything else here. You can't think of anything else to ask, but sense that the atmosphere is now somehow shifted. You quickly finish up the sorting you slip out, waving goodbye to her as you do. Explosives? What fun! Okay, we've done that. We need food and water. But for right now, I need food, so I'm going to go work at the Haifa commune. Where a negative outcome has the same result as a positive one. Oh, I have an active scene. I need to go meet with the lieutenant. As you approach the address Rabia gave you, a heavy hand falls on your shoulder. What's your business here? The enforcer grips your shoulder, giving a hint of the strength her implants give her. As you turn, you see the same subsidiary eyes as Rabia and Toshiro, glinting like mirrors on her cheeks. Gia, please. The sleeper is here by my invitation. At Rabia's command, the hand immediately loosens, and an apologetic look replaces the scowl on Gia's face. Of course, Rabia. I'm sorry. Rabia waves her away. Don't you worry. I appreciate your protective instincts. She smiles at the enforcer. How about you head to the tambour? They have a delivery coming, and they'll need some help with the lifting. Gia nods and walks away, choosing to remove security from her presence and showing that she trusts us. So, Sleeper, you came. I'm glad. Both of these are true. I was curious. Curious is good. She smiles a tight smile. You have to understand, finding you there in Sabine's unit, I wasn't sure where we stood. There are more than a few people on the station who would rather I was dead. I had to be sure you weren't one of them. I get mildly suspicious vibes, but she hasn't done anything to hurt me to this point. And so I'm going to say I wish you no harm. I am glad. Rabia begins walking and gestures for you to walk with her. She takes you down a staircase into the bustling walkways of the low end. What do you know about Yadigan? You run the low end. She laughs. That sounds impressive. We run out of the low end, yes. We don't run it. People with carts push past, moving crates of supplies around the thin and winding passages. Our reputation is one that implies threat. Is that fair to say? We are framed as aggressors, parasites, criminals. She gestures around at the people in the passageway. But when was the last time you saw a lawmaker on the eye? A policeman? Who makes the laws here? Havenage. Yes, they like to believe so, don't they? By claiming a lineage that extends back into Erlin's Union, they assume the burden of authority. But they have no authority here, out past the Bright Market, where few work in their shipyard or pay for their docking berths. If you had spent your time in the low end, then maybe your opinion of us would be different. This is our place, our people. The low end was empty in Erland's time. They didn't need to house thousands, and keeping the yards and the rotunda safe was work enough. The rotunda, excuse me. No, the low end was reclaimed later, when the refugees started arriving. Rabia meets your eye. The collapse didn't just happen here, on the station. When Solheim collapsed, the entire system felt it. Colonies were abandoned. The moons of Ember and Cinder suddenly gained independence overnight. Some took advantage, some tried to hold it together, some fled. We've got to hydrate. We've got to drink of water. The Eye became a refuge, and Erland, to his credit, extended an open hand to everyone. But many within his organization disagreed. Hold on, I'm fixing my camera a bit. Sorry, Dusa. I keep having to fix my positioning so it's not natural, and we want to have a good natural posture for streaming. Let's start this line again. The Eye became a refuge, and Erland, to his credit, extended an open hand to everyone. But many within his organization disagreed, and those new arrivals weren't as simple to corral as they hoped. Rabia leads you through a small market hall, busy with small stalls and traders. Gotta get that comfortable posture. Ergonomics, y'all. Erland's union was made of workers, administrators, people who were malleable and already organized into hierarchies and networks. The refugees came from different factions and families, were scared, injured, desperate. Conflict was inevitable. Yadigan is a child of that conflict, a child born out of the need for us to stand up and claim our future, to provide security, strength. People call us a gang, but we are a community. I take my position as a lieutenant seriously, and from my birth I have worked to earn it. Rabia catches herself before she raises her voice any further, and you both walk in silence for a while. Among the smells and textures of the low end, you start to wonder if this place could be a home for you too. I want to know both of these things, but I want to start with where do I come into this? Rabia smiles to herself and thinks for a moment before she responds. I believe that you understand the importance of a refuge. So I also believe that you wish to help keep this place safe. She exhales quietly. For this reason, I would like you to trust me. I do not know what Sabine told you about us, but I imagine it was not good. I will be honest with you, Sleeper. I was never comfortable with having Sabine as part of Yadigan. An ex-corporate employee? It goes against our very nature. But their deal was with Yannick. I kept my distance, made sure Sabine had their surgery, kept it supplied. That was all. But I cannot allow people to go back on the promises they have made to us. Yadigan has not lasted this long because it is a charity. We offer and ask for support. Any betrayal will be treated as an attack. And Aubrey, you're absolutely right. Hierarchical government is problematic. I can defend Sabine, or I can ask about Yannick. I think we're going to find out about Yannick eventually, and Sabine did help us out of a pretty bleak situation. Many on the Eye are, Sleeper. I am sorry, but we must ask that our debts are paid in full. Sabine found something. Please. I don't want to hear their accusations. They only want to escape their debt. They would have said anything. But where are they now to stand behind their claims? Just gonna stay silent. You realize that Rabia has led you in a loop, and together you both come back up a staircase to the walkway where you met. You're free to go, Sleeper. I have said what I wished to say. She looks out through the windows of the walkway. I would protect this place with my life, as it has protected me. I want to make that clear. She turns back. However, if you two wish to come under its protection, I can help you. Return here if you wish, and there will be tasks for you to complete. You will be able to see Yadigan, to see the low end, with your own eyes, not as others frame us. As for Sabine, she pauses to consider her words. I will not ask you to betray them, but if they contact you again, consider their motivations carefully. With that, Rabia leaves, slipping back into her office, while you stare out at the countless units, each a home, each with a story that make up the low end. So we can work at the office. To become an insider with Yadigan. That one doesn't have a timer attached to it, so I am going to focus on these up here. These seem a bit more pressing, but it is good to know what we'll be looking into after this. Also, let's stabilize, because dice are of the essence. That common phrase that we all say, dice are of the essence. Not great dice. Sleeper, long time. Moritz is smiling at you when you leave, clearly happy to see you again. Moritz, good to see you. Same. He rubs his hands on his jacket. How have you been? Working hard. I bet, he grins. Well, you're always welcome to hang at the bay if you want. He glances around. Actually, that's what I'm here about. I know Bliss said she didn't want to take any more big jobs, but she's changed her mind, or something, he grins. Because now we have someone looking for a refit of their ship in the bay. Transformational justice and community would look like a threat to hyper-capitalist space society. That's true, Aubrey, and you can leave space out of that sentence, and it's still true. You would not believe it. They want their entire ship disarmed. Cutting out defense arrays, weapon lockers, ship-to-ship countermeasures, the whole lot. He leans in. We'll be able to start an arms dealership with all the hardware we have up there when we're done, he laughs. Anyway, it's a massive job and we need some hands. Bliss said to go get you. So come on up. Bliss is waiting for you to accept the job. He pauses. It'll be good to have you up there again. He grins. Like old times. One of my takeaways from this game is that ultimately there is very little you can do about the bigger systems at play. You can do some things, especially if you work with others, but in a lot of cases, capitalism gonna capitalism. But that doesn't mean we cannot find community within those systems to make life better for each other. And that is illustrated in not all of these different stories, but certainly a lot of them. And there are a lot of bleak video games out there. I feel like Citizen Sleeper does a good job at being hopeful without saying everything's fine, don't worry about it. Which is, I like it. I like it very much. You gotta work together. When you enter the bay, it is weirdly quiet. Moritz must be out on some errand, and maybe Bliss is prepping the kit? Sleeper. Ankita is drifting at one side of the bay. You missed her completely when you came in. The idea of not seeing Ankita when you entered a room would have seemed unlikely to you several cycles ago, but seeing her without her armor, she seems smaller, less imposing. This could come off more accusatory than I think, but I think I'm just going to ask, what are you doing here? I was about to ask you the same thing. She kicks off from the wall and comes a little closer. For those who weren't here for it or who have forgotten, Ankita was a mercenary whose ship got wrecked, and we helped fix up the ship. And then she went to get revenge on an old crewmate who I believe betrayed her. And that was a rough situation because, well, she's still around and he isn't. So Ankita, you can see, is a little bit reflective, a little bit perhaps remorseful about how that shook out. So what is this? She asks. Come to avenge Ashton or his sleeper? Or just looking for another payout? Her anger is familiar, but quieter than before, restrained. I don't want to fight. Then why are you here? She looks away, and you can tell her anger isn't directed at you in particular. It radiates off her like fire. You better be ready to sign. Oh, you better be ready to sign, comes a shout from the bay entrance, because I've got my best repair tech coming up here especially, and they are going to... Bliss glides in and suddenly stops herself when she sees you and Ankita standing off. Oh, Sleeper, you're already here. Miss Cassetta, this is the tech I was telling you about. Best on the hook. She stops, looking between the two of you. Wait, do you know each other? You and Ankita look at each other. We work together. Bliss squints at you before continuing. Bliss produces a slate. Now, Miss Cassetta, if you'd like to sign our damage waiver here, we can start on the decommissioning. She looks at you. My tech is eager to get started, as am I. Ankita scrawls her signature across the slate. Thank you. Bliss pauses. And everything is okay with the special payment terms we discussed? She gives Ankita a strange smile. All fine, says Ankita, giving you another hard look. Then she kicks off and drifts to the entrance. I'll be in the gimbal, she says, and leaves. Special payment terms? She looks over her glasses at you. Look, Sleeper, there's something I have to tell you. She glances around again. What is she so nervous about? Also, folks who weren't here for Bliss, we helped her fix up her ship repair bay and originally got scammed out of payment for a lot of the jobs, but finally came good, and now Bliss can run her own shop. But she's calling us in for this one because it seems to be an important job. This isn't exactly a typical job. Miss Ankita, she gives you a knowing look, doesn't have the chits to pay us, so we've made a special agreement. She sighs. I'm leaving. Leaving? Keep it down. I haven't told Moritz yet, I think that's supposed to say. She looks down, just waiting to break it to him. Don't you tell him either. She stares hard at you. I'll tell him when I'm ready, and I don't want him getting worried about Ankita's history. He can be very protective. You should tell him. Look, all I care is that she is heading for the starboard belt. She looks out at the bay. That's where I'm headed. She turns back to face you. Also, I wanted to ask. She stops, unsure. If you'd like to come with us? An interesting crew. Ankita, Bliss, and me. I haven't tracked down this ending before. This is a big choice. I don't know if this choice itself is a big choice, if this actually closes things off or not, but right now I can't. I can't. I have too many other people I need to help. She interrupts before you answer. I know things have been hard for you on the Eye, and you've helped me so much. I asked Ankita if she'd carry two of us, and she said yes. Moritz will take over the bay anyway, although if you stay, you are welcome to help him run it. I just thought you might be in need of a fresh start as much as I am. She turns away nervously. Think about it anyway. The berth is there. We've got to finish the job first anyway. And with that, she kicks away and heads to the racks before you can offer an answer. Moments later, Moritz enters with a new cutting torch for the disarming of the ambergris. The starward belt. You push your thoughts to the back of your mind. It's time to get to work. Is there a timer? There's not a timer. Definitely something to think about. Not something I'm going to focus on right now. I have more time-sensitive fish to fry before they start to smell like bad fish. That common phrase that we all know and love. You are leaning against the metal crates you just loaded up with algae, packed and dried into bright green pucks. Esh hops onto one beside you, flexing her aching back. Is this enough? Esh squints at you, as if you just interrupted her train of thought. It's a look you have become familiar with. Yeah, Esh's look. I mean, so many characters in this game. Very good looks, gotta say. It doesn't matter either way. This is what we've got, she sighs, rubbing the back of her neck. In these past cycles, working the algae stack with Esh, you've had little insight into her mind. She rarely seems happy to start a conversation, but is always eager to end one. Despite this, you feel like something has grown between you. Something like silent trust. The kind that tends to seed itself in the fertile soil of hard but necessary work. There's something I've been meaning to ask. Esh raises her head cautiously. Go on. I think this one, why help the flotilla, is just because they're people in need. My vibe from Esh is that's just the thing she'd do. There might be another reason, but I'm going to accept that at face value for now and ask, why escape XPR? Esh pauses, her protective instinct fighting with the trust you've built. You can see her beginning to shrug the question off, then she stops, rethinks, sighs. What you need to understand, Sleeper, is that Erlin's Eye wasn't the only place where the Solheim collapse happened. Sure, Hawthorne, where we grew up, was an XPR installation, but that didn't screen it from Solheim going under. Actually, Solheim was the only reason XPR were ever here. She pauses, hesitant to get into the whole story, but wanting to offer something. She flinches, correcting herself. They are a service corp. You understand? They set up outposts and surrogate systems like this to offer refueling, logistics, and maintenance services to bigger companies with extraction contracts. She gestures to the eye around her, like Solheim. When Solheim went bust, XPR lost their client. And Hawthorne, well, we lost everything. We became an outpost tasked with just holding on. Keep the refueling platforms running, they said. Keep the outpost stable. Hold on to their claim. She rubs at her head, as if recalling this was somehow physically painful. Do you know what it is like to spend your entire life in a place with no future? A place that exists only to hold a legal claim to a piece of territory, to shore up breach of contract negotiations between two corporations? It's like living in a... She searches for the word, her eyes jumping back and forth. In a grave. She clenches her hands. Love to drink a water. So if you are looking for the answer to why questions, that's your answer. We, Peek and I, know what it's like to be forgotten, to be locked out. She stares hard at the side of the sack, the algae whirling against the glass in beautiful patterns, and she doesn't look away. The silence extends, and you realize the conversation is over. Esh seems angry, not at you, but with herself, for even voicing such ideas. After a while, you stand and start to load the crates onto the powered cargo trolley that Esh will run back to the Briar. As you do, you try to catch her eye, but she avoids it, soothing herself instead with the comforting simplicity of physical work. I get it. I get a little bit more where she's coming from. Hey, can I steal some water from y'all? Okay. Gonna save that till I have more positives. I need the water, and I need supplies. Which is going to be these. That's a lot of suspicion. What's the worst case scenario on the suspicion one? It goes up anyway. Let's spend this one here. Okay. I need to wait till I can drop that again. Let's fill up on food. Yeah, we're good there. Oh, that's good. Love to see a 5. What? No, Sleeper's fine. Don't worry about Sleeper. Sleeper's fine. Is it working? Do you think that worked on them? Good. Thank you. Thank you for believing me that Sleeper's fine. I just feel that 3 would have become a 1. Oh, it loves to give me back the 1 and 2. Huh. You know, let's try it. Neutral. Okay. This may be a mistake. Hey! You meet Peek leaning in a corner of the canteen in their typically unassuming way. It occurs to you as you approach that Peek must have had some practice at staying invisible. All good? They look up from their slate. That crew you were talking to. They nod to the group leaving the canteen. Will they join us? That's what they say. You aren't sure. Peak looks back at them as they disappear into the corridors of the installation. Looks like we'll have to take them at their word either way. Peak beckons for you as to follow as they peel off the wall and head out into the walkway overlooking the cordon. Glad you were here to talk them into it. I never had much of a way with people. Peak smiles and looks away quickly as you walk. You and Esh seem to do okay. Peak laughs at their light and easy laugh. Esh is not really like other people, which you've probably noticed. If only everyone was like Esh. They fade off, something drawing their attention. What I mean is, people have caused me a lot of trouble. I've had people hate me without knowing a thing about me. They tuck their hair behind an ear. I'm sure you know the feeling. I do. Pete glances at you. Sorry to hear that. It marks you, am I right? It does. Peak nods. You both walk in silence for a moment. Not an awkward silence, but one of solidarity. Peak leads you around a corner, heading back to the main cordon accessway. I appreciate you coming in and helping us out on this sleeper. I'm talking to the crew and, well, you know. Maybe after this insane plan is done, we can talk properly. They keep looking ahead and you realize they are nervous. I'd like that. Peak smiles, looking down at their feet. That's settled then, they say to the floor. I better report the news to Esh. We have ourselves a tug escort. Peak stops at an intersection. See you soon, Sleeper. And please, take care. And with that, they drift away, their head down, their gait changing as they do, their practiced invisibility shrouding them like a cape. I think we'll have time. It's going to be a little bit cozy at the end, I think, though. We've got to stay focused on this. Good dice? Not very good dice. Pretty bad dice. First thing we gotta do. Get the suspicion down. Positive. So those are +1s. I think this is also a +1. Yeah. Let's re-roll it. Okay. Let's try and knock this one out. Good. Good. Okay. What do I do with some 1s? I don't like it. What do I do with a 1? You know what? It's not my priority right now, but I don't want to risk using the 1 on one of these. So we are going to go help take apart the ambergris. Because it looks like worst case is still progress. Yeah. Oh, we got a drink of water. Let's hope for better dice. Do I want to stabilize? Yeah, because I think that's going to drop us down to 4. those dice. Those dice are nice. Did I start? I did start on this one. Okay. It's not great, but we can work with it. Just go ahead and knock this one out. Bah. Peak is waiting for you when you slip out of the operations center, nervously poking at their small slate. Sleeper, they hiss. I followed what you were doing on that network. Incredible work. How do you do that? Both of these are true. It comes naturally. Peak smiles. I can't tell if that's modesty or just the truth. Interfacing skills like that? It's almost worth being... They stop themselves. Sorry, I didn't mean... Don't worry about it. Peak nods. Sorry. You and Peak quietly slip into the main walkway and work your way back to the main areas of the cordon. Havenage has had to quickly respond to the flotilla's arrival, and that means a lot of contractors and spacers walking through these corridors. You blend in easily enough. I haven't really met a sleeper before, Peak begins, as you might have guessed. They smile nervously. Hawthorne is an XPR service outpost, and since the collapse, no one came for refueling or repairs anymore. So, my generation has never met anyone outside the company. We heard about sleepers, they nod in your direction, from the data packets that come through from XPR every once in a while. They usually contain news along with the corporate propaganda, but the reports were light on the details. SNARP have kept the sleeper program pretty quiet anyway, and I think XPR are only interested in telling their employees about it because it made living in our company town look like a good life in comparison to being a piece of corporate property. They freeze. Sorry. Again, I don't mean... They look down. I'm just not sure how to talk about this stuff. That last one, I understand where they're coming from, but also it's a little bit true. Like they want to understand, and I am the one that they're bouncing the questions off of. And I can't just tell them to go look it up because the information they're going to get is going to be filtered through SNARP's filter most likely. So I am sympathetic on that front, which is why I'm not picking the last one. But I can understand someone else picking the last one. I'm going to say neither do I. I don't know how to talk about this stuff either. Peak smiles. Glad I'm not alone. I'll shut up about it now. You walk on a little further, the walkway becoming busier. You both relax a little more and go with the flow of people. I just want to say, I think I understand. They begin again. Clearly, this has been on their mind. I understand the need to escape, to get free of it all. They laugh at themselves. The structures, the systems, the company horizons, and a company town. They stare ahead. The small places, small corridors, small people. They look away. The slow death it brings. That's it. They turn to you. I get why you signed up to be a sleeper, and why you escaped from that too. It's not as simple as that. Peak looks a little crestfallen. I know. I'm just saying. They falter and give up. You walk in silence again, each of you in their own thoughts, but moving together through space, nonetheless. After a while, you come to the entrance to the cordon, where handfuls of workers and crews filter in and out through two huge loading bay doors. Peak stops. Okay, they pause. I'm heading back to the Briar. Once again, incredible work on the sensors. That blind spot you created, that should give us a real advantage. See you soon. They head off, disappearing into the crowd almost immediately, outrunning their own nervousness. I'm out of dice. I don't need to keep looking at that. How are we doing? We got 2 and 2? We've got 2 and 2. We've got 5 cycles left. Should be okay. I hope. How about more great dice? Those dice last time were really good. Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby. We got some good ones. 4 6s and a 4. Almost a Yahtzee. Do we re-roll the 4 and try and get the Yahtzee? Or do we keep this and get the very good 4 of a kind score? Or do we put this in 6s to work towards the bonus? There are so many options here. I've just been informed through my headset that we are not playing Yahtzee. We're playing Citizen Sleeper. So disregard much of what I just said. Please and thank you. I did hydrate. I'm going to mark that hydrate I just did as that hydrate. Because I've been working pretty well on that water bottle. And I'm proud of myself for that. Just doing some good work. Oh, I do need to go get food, though. In the game. Apparently, it's not the same rules as Yahtzee. That's what my producer is telling me. So I don't get it personally. I think it should use Yahtzee rules. Oh, a rapid burst of movement catches your attention. A drone, its fins adjusting as it hovers in place, floats in the corridor. Hello? The drone shifts a little but does not respond. The drone buzzes closer, and a voice gurgles out of its speaker, distorted and strange. Sleeper, come to the cordon. We need to speak. Who is this? The drone clicks and whirs, and the recording starts playing again. Sleeper, come to the cordon. We need to speak. Let's inspect this drone. You move closer, and the drone bobs away to a safe distance. But as it does, you can see the HA of Havenage emblazoned on its side. Could this be Fang's drone? Satisfied it has delivered its message, the drone rotates and accelerates away as rapidly as it arrived. You stare at it as it disappears from sight, hoping for some insight that escapes you. To the cordon, then. We got pretty good dice. 3 out of 5 are solid. It's a mystery. Let's see who sent this drone. As you enter the passage that leads through the cordon, a flash of movement catches your eye. The drone. It stops to make sure you've seen it, and then flits into a side passage, leading to a set of narrow stairs. You climb up through a dark shaft, the drone stopping at each landing to check you are following. Despite its lack of expression, there's something overbearing about the way the drone waits, impatiently aligning its fins in sequence. After a long climb, you come out of an observation platform. You come out onto an observation platform, excuse me. The cordon and the vast, ramshackle refugee ships beyond fill your vision. The scale seems impossible, and immediately you feel small and naive for even thinking you could affect the situation. Something shifts nearby. The drone again? A woman is stood at the window, at the edge of your vision. You aren't surprised you didn't notice her. She, too, seems impossibly small in the shadows of the flotilla. The drone buzzes by her shoulder, and she turns. Sleeper. Sorry for all the cloak and dagger nonsense. She nods at the drone. But I have never regretted being cautious. She smiles a tight smile and holds out a hand. I'm Helene. Shake her hand. The tight smile holds, but the drone keeps its single eye fixed on you. The effect is a little unnerving. Look. She glances around the empty observation deck, as if checking for potential eavesdroppers. Let's be straight with each other. Do we have to? I know about your plans, and... She cuts in before you can respond. I understand your motives. You look at her in her overalls, the yellow markers, the HA sigil. You've been on the eye long enough to recognize a Havenage member when you see them. I mean, that one's obvious. I'm not going to call it out. She glances around nervously again and moves a little closer. This entire situation, I am not here to defend it. She glances back at the flotilla. No one is happy about this. Especially not the refugees. She sighs. I'm not your enemy here, no matter what you think. She pauses. Sleeper, tell me something. What does Havenage mean to you? A work in progress. She smiles. Fair, I think. Havenage is used to being criticized. In some ways, we invite it. Our members are free to bring up grievances at any meeting, to propose new structures and approaches. She shifts her weight impatiently. As a counselor, it is my duty to listen to them. That is why I was elected by the members. We are an imperfect system, yes, and each counselor, each member, each representative can be flawed, and worse. She looks down. But we keep this place running. That is what we do. And the flotilla? She turns and looks out at the clump of fractured ships. The flotilla is a problem. Can the Eye take in thousands of refugees safely? I don't know. This place is a ruin, Sleeper. What do you think the council discusses? The price of gear roll? We make plans to keep this place spinning, to keep life support working, to ensure... Helene's slate chirps and a grim look passes across her face as she sees the notification. She looks tired, the screen light casting her rigid expression in a pale glow. Sleeper, I didn't bring you here to explain how Havenage works. I came to talk about your plans to cross the cordon, breach the quarantine, and supply the flotilla. She looks directly at you. How do you know? She glances at the drone. I make it my job to know what happens here. I know you think you are helping the flotilla, but you cannot do this. Right now, halfway across the ring, one of a countless series of debates are being held. These debates are to evaluate the potential harm that could be caused if the refugees of the flotilla are left to enter the station. These debates are at a standstill. Little pop, apologies for that. Helene walks to the window. Too many in the Havenage Council think of the flotilla as a threat. After recent events, a hardline group has emerged. Protective, selfish. They seek only to benefit the members. In their mind, the flotilla is a danger to life on the Eye. If you're caught crossing the cordon and breaching the quarantine, It will only strengthen the hardline counselor's case. Criminals who stole from XPR undermining the security of the station? She shakes her head. It's exactly what they want. The refugees need supplies. They do, and that's exactly what I want to give them. But unless the quarantine is lifted through a fair process, they will never get them. She sighs deeply. And those XPR spacers you are running with? Sleeper, do you know anything about them? More than I know about you. She looks at you pleadingly. Let's change that, Sleeper. Why do you think the refugee flotilla came here now? Something is happening in the system. Something is pushing people out of colonies and outposts that have survived since Solheim collapse. We need to be ready for whatever is coming. Ready to protect the Eye. I know the Eye means something to you. I know there's a reason you're still here. Help me protect it. Helene fixes you with a strong look. Persuade those spacers that this is the wrong move, that they will get caught and the flotilla will be locked down, that Havenage will be delivered into those with the worst instincts. Forget this suicidal supply run with people you barely know. Help me fight for the Eye. Choices are, why don't you stop them? I won't betray them. Or stay silent. I'm thinking, I'm pondering. I'm going to take a sip while I ponder. I know why she won't stop them. She doesn't have that amount of trust with them. I think she does have good intentions with methods that contradict those of the ex-XPR folks. I can see her argument. I don't fully agree with it. But I do think there would be problems that come if we are whatsoever noticed, which I think we would be. I'm just going to say I won't betray them. Helene looks away. But you will betray your home. Don't offer up the excuse the hardliners need to lock the flotilla out altogether, to persuade the members that they are the safest pair of hands. She looks at you imploringly. Please. You look back at her and the flotilla behind, and sense a desperation in her plea. A notification breaks the silence. Shit. She rapidly scrolls through the pages of data. Sleeper, I need to go. She looks torn. Think about this, please. Talk to the spacers, help them see reason. And she quickly leaves the observation deck before you have time to respond. You stay for a moment, watching the lights of the tugs and the flotilla, and wonder what it feels like to be on one of those ships. So close to your destination, and yet so far from it. And then you think of the Havenage Council Chamber, across the Eye, where the right of these people to find safety is being debated. You shiver, and then you too are gone, back into the stairwell, and the cold dark below. Like, absolutely, the council should see reason. The committee. I also recognize that there are people who will say, these people are a problem, and we've been given an excuse to call them a problem. So, I don't know. It's a bad situation, which is what we get in this game. Pete grins as you pile the ion thruster sets onto the motorized trolley in a derelict loading bay. I borrowed this from Esh. I barely know how it works. They seem giddy at the idea of stealing the ship parts from Havenage. I thought you worked for XPR? I did, but not as a repair tech. They help you heave the thruster into position. My specialty was computer systems. I mostly worked on keeping the protocols that ran the refueling platforms from totally decaying due to the lack of use. There's a load of platforms in orbit of the moon Hawthorne is on, and Cinder itself. Ash and I ended up having to head out to them regularly to work on them. Sounds technical. Peak smiles. That was the best job at Hawthorne. You get assigned a ship, you get to leave the colony for a bit. So much better than outpost maintenance or canteen work. The only reason we got assigned it was that Esh's mother is the administrator of Hawthorne, and Esh managed to get my name on the list too. Peak looks for the trolley's ignition. Esh is always saving me. They find the switch and hit it. The trolley starts whining. Peak looks at the thrusters. Esh will install these. The Briar is her baby, really. Peak looks towards the bay exit. Truth be told, I was surprised she could bring herself to take it from her mother. Losing a ship, that has to hurt the colony. Excuse me. What is her mother like? Tough. You'd have to be to control a services outpost with no services to provide. Peak looks away. It's a tough place overall, Hawthorne. And Esh's mom? She likes it that way. Peak shuffles the trolley out of the bay into the corridor. They'll manage without the Briar. No choice. Peak smiles. And I have to admit, I'd have loved to have seen her face when she saw we had gone. Peak pauses. Don't tell Esh that. They walk on quietly, lost in their memories of Hawthorne. Okay, I think I can manage the rest. Peak brushes their hair out of their face. You've done more than enough this cycle. Peak looks over the thrusters. Once these are fitted, the Briar will handle better than ever. You might even get a thank you from Esh. Peak laughs. They head off into the corridor, the trolley whining its high-pitched whine. See you soon. So those are done. Water, 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 water. We need 2 successes. No, I don't want to take the condition hit. Well, I can take the condition hit because I'm going to stabilize anyway. Oh, yeah. Sleeper. Peak is waiting for you when you leave, but they look different. Pale. Drawn out. You need to come up to the Briar, now. They don't meet your eye. What's happened? Not here, Peak hisses. Come to the ship. We'll be waiting. Peak walks away. Don't take long. And with that, they disappear around the corner, leaving you anxious and confused. As you walk into the Climbing Briar's cavernous bay, now filled with crates and containers, Esh is waiting for you. In front of her, sliced open, with its inside scattered across the top of a heavy-duty crate, is an object you recognize. Helene's drone. You freeze. Come in, quick. Peak nudges you into the bay, looking behind you before sealing the entryway. We have to start being careful. You move closer to the container, your eyes on the drone splayed out in pieces. Some parts of it hooked up to a slate that Peak picks up and begins tapping away at. Esh looks up from the dissection. We caught it buzzing around nearby, heading for the ship. She leans over and taps the HA sigil on one of the removed pieces of plating. It's it's a Havenage spy. We think we got it before it sent data back, but we can't be too sure. Peek looks at you nervously. Esh cuts in. Have you noticed anyone watching you? Any drones like this? Anyone following you up to the Briar? I've seen this drone. Esh frowns. Following you? I met its owner. Esh pauses for a while. Peek looking between the two of you. Explain, Sleeper. Esh says quietly. I'm going to tell them the truth. I'm not going to lie about it. You explain that you met with Helene and the Cordon, and you tell Esh and Peek about what she told you. That the Havenage Council are debating lifting the quarantine, but they are blocked by the hardliners. You speak faster and faster, but before you can finish, Esh walks away in anger, and then comes back again, her eyes burning. What is this, Sleeper? Have you understood nothing from what we've told you? She paces in front of you. Havenage are not your friends. They are administrators, which means they are interested only in their own power, their own survival, their own causes. They divide people as easily as sorting livestock. The greater good of their work demands it. The wider project of the station, the colony, the nation. Her eyes are wide as she speaks, her anger barely contained. I mean, I didn't have a choice. I don't think. And I think she wants to help, but I don't think those are the helpful words for Esh right now. So I'm just going to say I didn't have a choice. Pete cuts in. Listen to them, please, Esh. They are with us. Peek glances between you two. What was the Sleeper supposed to do? They were ambushed by this Helene. Now is it the right time to say she is trying to help? I think Esh will be mad at me. And Peek will probably be in the same situation I'm in, which is, yes, she is trying to help. Her methods suck, though. Let me tell you something, Sleeper, Esh says, her rage hardening into pain. When people become administrators, they give up something. Some part of being human, being an equal among others, goes away. They start talking about the greater good, the systems, the ways in which their hands are tied or processes compromised. My mother was the administrator of Hawthorne, and I have seen what it did to her. That noble higher calling, it is toxic. People should never have the chance to decide the fate of others, and those that do so at a cost of their humanity. Peek tries to cut in, but Esh holds up a hand. Don't start, Peek. Don't start, Peek. Don't ask me to be reasonable or calm down. Thousands of people are desperate out there. Being reasonable will only prolong their suffering. You are right. Esh doesn't move for a moment, then she lifts a hand to rub her temples. She goes to say something, then stops. She walks back into the bay and starts checking the straps on the crates. I will make the run. She yanks on the strap. No more distractions. Sleeper. Peek looks torn. You have to understand this is personal for Esh. I know. Peek looks away, then at Esh. I don't know, Sleeper. I just don't know what to do. You glance around the Bay of Briar, the walls seeming closer every second. This whole thing is closing in on you, and the question is, where do you want to be when it all collapses? You look at Peek. And what do you think, Sleeper? Peek rubs their forehead. Should we do this thing or not? My gut instinct is I don't know. Because neither of them are wrong. They need supplies, and it might do long-term damage to the cause. So should is a difficult question to answer. I don't know. Peak nods. Me neither. They look at Esh. But you see her? She knows, and she saved my life. So I'm going to say we do it. They squeeze your shoulder. Onward. They slip away to help Esh, leaving you alone to replay the conversation in your head. A certain kind of grim determination settling in the room. Last chance to prepare. Well, let's get all the water at least. No good answers available. Absolutely. Tucked into a service corridor deep below the reservoir, Ash is double-checking the seals on the water tanks loaded onto the motorized trolley. Though you are far enough away from any thoroughfares to not worry about being overheard, you still speak in hushed tones. All good? Ash nods silently and hits the ignition on the trolley to start it moving. You take the other side of the trolley and walk it up the wide service corridor with its flickering lights and Solheim detritus. You doubt it gets used by Havenage. At least that's the hope. You glance across at Esh, her face a mask of determination as she guides the trolley along. Maybe some conversation will make this journey go a little easier. How did you meet Peak? Esh pauses, a little surprised by your question. She glances back down the tunnel, but in this deserted passage, she can hardly keep up the pretense of silence. We grew up together, she answers quickly and turns back to the trolley. But she can tell you are expecting her to add more. She seems to gather herself for an answer, not wanting to ignore you, but trying instead to get her answer straight in her head. Our outpost, Hawthorne, is not an easy place to grow up. The administrators keep a tight hold of everything. She rolls her eyes. Even though they are trapped in the same decaying installation as everyone else. Peak, she pauses. Peak found it harder than most. She pauses again, judging her words. I stepped in to help them out. Silence descends again, but you can feel the wheels turning in Esh's mind as the creaking wheels of the trolley take you along the corridor. Peak isn't the most practical of people. They used to be, well, they needed someone to teach them to look after themselves, stand up for themselves. That was me. She smiles. After that, I couldn't get rid of them. Esh stops talking, but you see her eyes have lit up, and you imagine she is recalling some moment or other from her and Peak's past. You both reach a wide bulkhead doorway and have to stop to shimmy the trolley over the edge. When you are done, Esh turns to you. I'm good from here. Head back. And with that, she is gone, moving off into the dark tunnel ahead. You watch her go and then turn around and walk the distance back to the staircase you entered from, the tunnel humming around you as you do. As you walk, you try to piece together Esh's past, but all you have are glimpses of a person she once was. She seems to prefer it that way. We did all the things, we got an upgrade point. We did all the things, so we got an upgrade point. I don't need that, so I'm not going to take it. Oh, hit the wrong button. Oh, we got some good energy from that. Let's get some more good energy. Maybe. I have not explored the Ash and Peak story. That's part of a DLC, and I am very much enjoying going through it with y'all. So I'm glad you're enjoying it too. Want to go back? Yeah, because there's going to be stuff popping off here. I don't know if it's this cycle or the next one. Got 2 cycles. Okay. I had a reroll, didn't I? Nothing to be done here. You know what? I haven't finished the fungus. I'm sort of bouncing over around to different spots, but I got 2. I got 2. One at a time. What fun at a time. How long is this? 4 cycles. My goodness. That's a lot of cycles. In my opinion, it's a lot of cycles. Let's bump that up to a 5. Oh, the soundscape is very good. It's very subtle, which I appreciate. There are times where it's a bit heavier, but I think those situations call for it. And the mood and the feel, they made very good choices with a lot of things in this game. It's been a while. We've got to feed the stray. The stray crunches up the crackers as you watch. Sometimes they'll let you stroke them, sometimes not. She's gone, Sleeper. Peak is breathless and shaking. She started the run without us. I know it's Ash, so I don't need to choose that option, which just leaves shit. Let's go. If we head to the cordon now, Peak starts back up the corridor. They turn back. She has to make it, Sleeper. She has to. A shiver runs down your spine. Ash, I hope you know what you're doing. Everything's fine. How could it not be fine? You arrive, frantic and anxious, at the cordon. Peak is nowhere to be seen. Then you hear footsteps, hammering on the metal stairway Helene's drone led you through before, the one that leads up to the observation deck. You leap up the stairs 2 at a time and make it to the top, momentarily blinded by the light pouring into the observation deck. Sleeper. Peak emerges from the light. I know she was trying to protect me, but It's okay. She chose. But what about my choice, Sleeper? I'm not a child anymore. I can fight for myself. They turn away. There she is. Peak rushes to the wide window, leaning forward to catch a glimpse of the climbing briar's blue XPR livery against the black of the void. You spot the climbing briar, a glint of blue and white, and beside it the red glare of a tug's lights. The tug crew went with her, Peak smiles. I knew they'd keep their word. That'll help. Peak doesn't seem to hear you, but the idea of the crew backing Esh up makes you smile. Maybe this thing will work. You watch as the briar and its tug escort arc down towards the edge of the cordon, demarcated by the red lights of the perimeter system. So far so good. The briar will look just like another refugee ship being escorted into the cordon, at least at a glance. Peak grips the rail as Esh reaches the edge of the cordon, that invisible net of sensors splayed between ships and drones. Now let's hope the blind spot triggered. You think back to the mess of systems you had to wade through to set it up, the delicate contingencies you set up to trigger the sensor blackout at just the right moment. Without noise, without ceremony, the briar slides through the cordon. You await the flickering of alarm lights, the swarming of drones. But nothing. Just another cycle, just another ship. Esh is in. Both you and Peak let out the breath you've been holding, and laugh. How did she do it? Peak smiles, shaking their head. We did it. Peak smiles wider. Yes, we did. They laugh. You feel a little shaky from the tension, but Peak's ease helps you settle. You imagine Esh, steely-eyed in the pilot seat of the briar, searching for a place to dock. Maybe being stubborn has its advantages. You okay? Me? Peak sighs. Oh, I think that took years off my life, but I've got to hand it to Esh. She was right. You and Peak turn back to the window, looking for the briar again amongst all those hulls. The calm fading as new worries settled in. You spot the briar first this time, docking with the largest of the flotilla's ships, a vast converted tanker, half of its protective plates removed. You think about the effort it must have taken to get that thing all the way here from the inner system. You watch the briar, unable to get any sense of progress from its placid exterior. They will be offloading everything now, Peak says, both assuring you and themselves that everything is going to plan. You think of all the supplies loaded into the briar and how long the process of unloading them might take. The bay was packed, rammed with everything you could offer, and the thought of bringing all that to the flotilla makes you smile. I did just remember the explosives. I'm a little bit worried about that. I don't know if it's going to come up or not, but Chekhov's boxes of explosives has me a little bit nervous. You think of the reaction of the refugees, of the welcome they'll give Esh as the bearer of such gifts. You even imagine a smile from Esh as she is showered with thanks. You focus on that as you watch the briar and continue the nervous wait for it to finish unloading. It's breaking off. Peak points at the briar, and you see the puff of air and dust that accompanies the emergency depressurization. Esh must have ended things early, but why? Then you see them, the tugs closing in on the briar. Havenage must have spotted the ship. You and Peak are up against the window again, willing the briar a safe path out of the flotilla. Suddenly, the briar shifts in space, a blue blur between two hulls. Peak whistles. Look at that, they smile at you. Looks like those upgrades we put together work. You watch as Esh cuts through the crowded flotilla, the tugs not daring to follow her dangerous path, and peeling away. It is hard to keep track of the briar, and suddenly both you and Peak are searching the black for a sign. Where is she gone? Then all of a sudden she is out, blue against the black, pulling away from the cordon on a wide arc back towards the station. A clean run. Peak cheers and smiles at you. We did it! She's out! They beam uncontrollably at you, the tension released. You find yourself smiling too, smiling at these two beautiful idiots and their beautiful ship. Then Peak is hugging you, squeezing you with all the nervous energy that had been building. Thank you, Sleeper. We did this together. They step back, still smiling. We did something. Come on, they rush out of the observation deck. Let's meet her. Upgrade. Oh, choices. My guess is that she may have to end up using the explosive if things don't go according to plan, but I don't know if that's true or not. I am experiencing this for the first time. I'm going to wait and see what I need boosted before I choose which thing to boost. You and Peak rush into the Briar, finding yourselves in the now empty bay. The change is a reminder of what you achieved, and looking around, you feel all the more satisfied. A hiss sounds at the far end of the bay, and Esh enters, looking exhausted. Peak runs up to embrace her, but she sits down on the bay floor before they reach her. You did it! They sit beside her. Esh, you were incredible! She smiles a small smile at this, laying her head on Peak's shoulder. You suddenly feel like you're intruding, seeing the two of them like this, quiet and content. Sleeper, Peak calls. Come on over. You cross the bay and sit beside them on the hard metal floor. Esh, Peak asks, did you give the flotilla our chairs? They both burst out laughing at the ridiculousness of it all, at the exhaustion and the worry and everything else. You laugh too. It is impossible not to. And after a while, you all come to a stop, Peak wiping their eyes and Esh shaking her head. You would have loved to see it, Sleeper, Esh says quietly. The welcome I got? They came to greet the ship once I docked, to offload the supplies. I told them I was coming, of course, as soon as I got inside the cordon, but there were so many. Children, families, they were smiling at me, shaking my hand. Sol was there too, Peak, and he's just as gruff as he sounds over comms. She smiles. They took it all, crate after crate, until the ship was emptied out. Esh looks away. But there were so many, and even with everything they managed to bring, they needed more. They made me promise I would try to come back. Esh, Peak shakes their head. You know we can't do that twice. Esh stands up. What are we supposed to do? Wait for them to lift the quarantine? She is angry again, that familiar tension rising in her voice. Peak tries to pull her back down. Sit, Esh. Rest. You have done enough for today. Don't, Peak. I know my limits. Esh hardens. Okay. Well, seeing as they didn't catch you, perhaps they will lift it. They know the flotilla poses no danger now. And if they can account for the extra load on the life support... Esh walks away toward the ladder that leads to the upper part of the ship. I need to rest, Peak. She holds up a hand. Sleeper. Then she limps up the ladder, step by painful step. I'm afraid if you were expecting a change in Esh's demeanor, Peak smiles at you. It's okay. Let her rest. Peak nods. I think I need some rest too. They put a hand on your shoulder and get up from the floor. We couldn't have done this without you, Sleeper. And I know those in the flotilla would thank you too. Thank you. Peak limps up the ladder too, leaving you alone on the metal floor of the bay. Your thoughts drift to all those people on the flotilla, sleeping and sitting on metal floors like this. Children, families, playing in cargo bays and repurposed fuel tanks. You know their story isn't over yet, and you look forward to meeting them. The quarantine will lift. You feel more sure of this fact every moment, even though you aren't sure why. You lie back on the metal and stare at the ceiling. What was it Fang told you, Erland said? The eye opens for us all? Maybe the old guy was right. A home for the lost. You like the idea of that. Maybe in time you can help make that a reality. But something is bothering you, a sliver of a thought, like a splinter you can't extract. Why are thousands of refugees coming here now? People don't abandon their homes for nothing. What wave is rushing through the system? And when will it reach the eye? You shudder on the cold metal floor and get up. Something is coming. You can feel it. This isn't over. Thank you for playing. The episodic story of the flotilla will continue in episode Refuge coming October 2022. That's the words. I've only been in this year for almost 9 months now. So we don't get the conclusion to the whole saga at the moment. We will... Yeah, we'll come back and do this episode when it comes out. Might have to interrupt another game, but we can definitely do that. For sure, for sure. It depends on when in October it comes out. It might be right after we finish it up. Probably next week. We're not hitting a credits this week. We could. I could speedrun to a credit screen, but I don't think that would be ideal. Oh, I know what I want to do. Let's get some energy. Let's get a bunch of scrap. Excuse me. Let's re-roll that 1 and get another 1. Oh, it's a 2, which turns into a 3. Wahoo! Yippee! Alright. As you say your goodbyes to the other enforcers and walk back through the low end, a chirruping catches your attention. In a quiet corridor away from the main thoroughfares, someone has stuck a small recorder to the wall with suit sealant tape. Written across the fluorescent tape is one word: sleeper. You peel it away from the wall, and as you do, it triggers some kind of improvised trip switch. Sleeper. Sabine's voice crackles through. I have seen you with Yatagan members. Are they holding you captive now too? A high whine. I am sorry I have dragged you into this. Do not trust them. Something is happening within the gang, some kind of power struggle. You cover the speaker a little, their voice too loud in the quiet corridor. I will come soon. Thanks to your efforts, I have located most of their properties. At the right time... A pause. I will see you soon. Don't give up. Remember our deal. The recording cuts out. You stare at the recorder, processing what you have just heard. Hearing Sabine's voice again opens up something inside of you. An S&ARP employee. Do they know that I know you? You struggle with a mix of concern and distrust. You throw the recorder into a nearby waste chute as you leave the corridor, still unsure who to trust, and head quietly out of the low end. Once again, the plot thickens. Okay, it's 1 condition for 1 piece of scrap. That's not bad. That's what I needed there. I'm still worried about those explosives. Because they said they took all the stuff, and I'm a little nervous. A little nervous about those explosives. This time you meet inside Rabia's office, although now that you've seen it, office seems like the wrong term. You find her stood in an almost bare, shadowy unit, midway through a sequence of stretches. There are 2 low stools and a terminal in the corner, but it seems that most of the space is taken up by a heavy punching bag, rubber matting, and a stack of weights. It would be weird if nothing exploded, and I think my earlier theory that stuff would have blown up if we hadn't done all of the prep work is a possibility. There's also a possibility it'll come into play in the next chunk of the story. But I can't check one of those things on this playthrough, and I can't check the other thing until sometime in October. So it's a surprise for all of us. When Rabia turns to greet you, you realize she is missing an arm. The prosthetic she usually wears is set in a cradle near the terminal, a web of colored wires running into it. Updates, she says, noticing you looking where her artificial arm usually is. Nothing to worry yourself with. Of course. Sit, says Rabia, gesturing you to the 2 diminutive stools. You both settle on the stools, Rabia crossing her legs on top and sitting straight-backed. Gia told me you have been doing the rounds. Collecting tithes, patrolling the ward. She smiles. Some of the enforcers are impressed. And I hear you have handled a few difficult circumstances. Well, nicely done. I wanted to see for myself. She raises an eyebrow. See what for yourself? If I can trust you. I see. Rabia flexes her neck side to side. And the conclusion? Still deciding. Well, Sleeper, Rabia says teasingly, please keep us updated on any progress. She smiles a thin smile. Joking aside, I know that for you, life on the Eye has been a struggle, but I hope we can do something about that from here onwards. Though some of our members may not see it this way, I know you too are a refugee. She looks at you solemnly. That is why you have come to us. Enough, Rabia. Sabine's voice cuts through the conversation. I am tired of listening to your affected nobility. They cross the room, Rabia's baton in their hand, the end lit with sparking electricity. Rabia looks between the 2 of you. I suppose this ambush was another cooperation between you 2? She looks strangely unfazed. I'm not going to say anything. Yes would be a lie. I'm trying not to lie unless someone would be endangered by the truth. And no, they're acting alone. I mean, I don't know Sabine's motives at this point, but I don't want to leave them out. Hang them out to dry. That's the phrase. Sabine pauses, thrown off by her silence. Rabia takes this opportunity to act. She leaps from the stool and fainting past Sabine, grabs the baton and twists it inwards. She is by far the stronger, and she pushes Sabine to her knees, plunging the crackling end of the baton towards their chest. They freeze there, Sabine struggling to keep the crackling baton from their skin. Stop! Then you support them, Rabia asks you, her eyes not leaving Sabine. Your loyalties are so easily swayed. I thought you were more than Yannick's attack dog, Rabia, Sabine spits back. Are you not able to think for yourself? Rabia holds the baton strong, and for a moment you think she is about to hammer it down into Sabine's chest. But, after a painful wait, she throws down Sabine instead, then spins the baton in her hand, thumbing a switch and shutting it off in a single move. Rabia, explain. They both look at you, each still catching their breath, as if they had forgotten about your presence. Explain what? How the moment I called my enforcers... How about... Explain what? How the moment I call my enforcers will come down here and take them away? Rabia cracks her neck. You are lucky I didn't kill you. I would have had every right. Every right! She shouts, the anger a release of tension more than a threat. Sabine lifts himself a little, bruised from the fall. They roll themselves onto their side and cough. Rabia gives them some space, sitting back on the stool. Sabine props himself up on their elbows and fixes Rabia with a hard stare. You have something to say? Rabia taunts. Say it. This is your final opportunity, because after this, she laughs, no coming back. What's the point? Sabine breathes heavily. She refuses to listen to criticism of the great Yadigan project. Rabia collects herself. Speak. She folds her arms and waits to be convinced. Sabine takes a breath, organizing their thoughts. They go to start, pause, then decide on another approach. Eventually, they say it. Yannick is a traitor. Rabia immediately flinches, her eyes going to her prosthetic arm, her muscles clenching. But she rides it out, more eager to prove Sabine wrong than she is to hurt them, at least for now. When I came here from S&ARP, they glance at you, gauging your reaction. It was Yannick who was one of the first to support me, to look after me. I should have known then, but I was naive and afraid. Sabine turns to you. Sleeper. They take a breath. I know that I should have told you I was working for S&ARP long ago, but I thought you would abandon me. And you are my final friend. What you should know is that I left S&ARP because I was running for my life. I leaked documents on the Sleeper program, on the illegal and immoral practices it relied on, to the press. S&ARP wanted me dead, and I fled as far as I could, to this refuge at the edge of the surrogate systems. Sabine stops to collect themselves. What does this have to do with Yannick? Rabia interrupts. The Sleeper knows you are S&ARP, I told them. And while you hide beneath the cover of being a whistleblower, you and I both know you worked on the Sleeper program. Yannick told me as much. Sabine's face falls. It is true. They glance at you and then away, ashamed. They lift their head. But it is Yannick, not me, who is in the pocket of S&ARP. Rabia flinches again. I can prove it. He made some kind of deal to keep me here, to tie me up in debt, to lock me away. In exchange... Rabia slams her hand on the desk. Just tell us, for God's sake. In exchange for those. Sabine finishes, nodding towards Rabia's prosthetic hand in its cradle. He has been using Yadigan enforcers, using you, as test subjects for S&ARP technology. I have the data to prove it. He has been bringing them in under the guise of stolen shipments and having me fit them, knowing each one is capturing data and sending it back to its makers. Rabia's fixed expression has started to fade. Sabine produces a slate. It's all here. Thousands of hours of usage data, failure rates, error dumps. These are untested implants, Rabia. They could short out, fail, cause cascading failures across a person's body, and they have. Sabine suddenly looks incredibly tired. I thought the error rate in the units was down to them being stolen or modified. I have tried to fix hundreds of failures in my time here. Not all of them. They stop, unable to continue. Rabia closes her eyes and breathes in. Then she opens them again. She holds out a hand to Sabine. Show me, she says. Later, much later, when you leave, Sabine is still taking Rabia through the manifests and usage data, both of them crowded around the terminal as Sabine leads Rabia through each layer of Yannick's betrayal. As you leave, Sabine catches your eye and something passes between you. Something like a thank you, or a sorry, or some other expression that communicates both sadness and hope. Ooh. Ooh. 3 cycles to go on that one. Spicy. Let's get that 1 and 1. Ooh. No, let's boost engineer. Yeah. Amber looks better than she ever has before. Bliss has done an incredible job of cleaning up the hull, and despite the exterior changes being limited, she has the impressions of being lighter, somehow sleeker than before. Moritz drifts by. He has been loading up the final equipment onto Amber. It turns out Ankita will be taking her weapons, but packed and ready to sell at the first starboard belt port she hits. But now that Moritz is done, he seems in a kind of daze, floating back and forth aimlessly. You okay, Moritz? What's that? He turns. Oh, right, yeah. Packed and stacked. He smiles a weak smile. Was hoping Miss Cassetta would let me keep a warhead. I'm curious about the for what, but I also want to know what he thinks of her. I'm going to say, what do you think of her? Miss Cassetta? He shrugs. She seems tired and old. Like, older than she looks. Hey, Sleeper, he looks down. Did you know Bliss was leaving? You understand now. She told him. That's why he is like this. I did. He nods distractedly. She said this place is mine. He looks up around the bay like it is suddenly some vast space he doesn't know what to do with. You'll do a great job. Excuse me. I don't know if it picked up on mic, but I did burp, and I apologize for that. I don't know why I'm apologizing for my body doing normal things that a body does, except that it may not have sounded good to your ears, and that's the part I'm apologizing about. I've also swapped out water bottles because this one's empty. So we're starting on Big Blue. Oh, good. I'm glad it wasn't too loud on the mic. We do need that water, though. We need that water. He looks down at you. Moritz does. Hey, thanks, he smiles. I appreciate you saying that. Not many people believed in me before now. First Bliss, then you. A dark look suddenly crosses his face. Hey, Sleeper, there was something Bliss said. He meets your eye. Are you going too? Before you can answer, Ankita glides into the bay, a massive crate on her shoulder. Sleeper, you coming or what? Bliss is already on board. She stops by the terminal, holding herself in place. Moritz looks at her with a dazed expression. You look at Ankita. She's keeping it together now. She's packed all those bad feelings down someplace where you'll never see them and built a tough foundation on top. She may not be a mercenary anymore, but you imagine most people would think twice before trying to cross her. Well, she looks at you. I'm not eager to spend another moment of my time on this station unless I have to. She pauses, looking between you and Moritz. She sighs. I'll give you a minute. And she kicks off with the crate, taking it to the end of the bay where the Amber sits docked. You look back at Moritz. I am curious about this ending, but there is someone more important. And I think Ankita is an interesting character whom I don't fully trust, but I am interested in what happens to her. Bliss is a delight, and I think traveling with her would be a lot of fun, but she's not Mina. Aubrey, you got it. She's not Mina, so I've got to stay. Moritz looks like he might pass out. Sleeper, are you sure? Are you doing this for me? Between the two, I'm staying for me. I appreciate you, Moritz, but Moritz nods. All right then. You're staying. He grins. Ankita comes back. Across the bay, the final crate stowed. You staying then, Sleeper? Not August Mina, but the name coincidence. Doesn't hurt matters. I also hope everyone voted. Voting is open again tomorrow. August survived, but didn't get enough to make it into the hall. We just need everyone in the world to vote for her, and we'll be fine. I don't think that's too much to ask. I think that's easy. But there's no call to action at the moment, so we'll talk more about that on Thursday. I am staying. These are saying the same thing in a way this game doesn't normally do. It sometimes does it, but... that's right. She nods. Well, okay then. One less mouth to feed. She pauses. Are you everyone in the world, Dracula? I don't know. I don't think so, but maybe. Look, Sleeper, I'm not going to go back over everything that happened, she sighs. I'm trying to put that behind me. But, she said, but, I hope you find what you're looking for here. She smiles and kicks off, gliding to the ambergris and the starward belt beyond. You both watch in silence as Amber's drives fire up. I guess this is our place now, says Moritz, the weight of everything suddenly hitting him. Your place, he smiles. Okay, but I'll need some help from time to time. You both stay for a while to watch Amber and Bliss and Ankita leave. And then Moritz goes to the racks and finally implement a new organizational system. And you head out, promising to be back to check on things soon. As you glide around the soft curve of the hub, you catch glimpses of the distant stars flickering through the windows. They are beautiful, it's true, but by now you think of them as a distraction. In your time on the Eye, you've realized there's nothing out there waiting for you. No fresh starts and no bright futures. Just a whole load of problems you haven't found yet. Did I accidentally hit the credits? I might have accidentally hit the credits, y'all. No, your place is here, among the people you know and the problems you know. You wish Ankita and Bliss the best of luck out in the belt, but as you do, you focus on the Eye, on the vast spinning rim that rotates around its hub, on its buildings and the flashing lights on its people and places. This is your home, and for now, it contains all the futures you need. Hey, we hit the credits. But we gotta figure out what's going on with Sabine. Thank you, Jump Over the Age. Thank you, thank you. I think we can reload and just not do that. I think. We will check that after we've got to watch the credits, y'all. You got to watch the credits. Meanwhile, I can take a nice sip of the water. Especially for a smaller game like this. With a small team, the credits are nice and short, nice and breezy. This isn't an Assassin's Creed where the credits are this big and take 10 minutes, I think. Now we continue. Yeah. We hit creds, but we gotta keep going. Next round is yours. Moritz arrives at the table with a couple of steel drink canisters, typical of the hub's only bar, the Gimbal Lounge. He settles into the webbing beside the table and clunks them down on the magnetic table. This place, you have decided, is ridiculous. A rapidly spinning, cavernous sphere, the gimbal's weak gravity, just like the gravity at the eye's rim, is created by its gut-wrenching rotation. The interior surface of the sphere is the gimbal's floor, which descends towards the equator where one long bar loops around the entire circumference. Tumbling out from that central ring are an array of booths and seating arrangements, equipped with all kinds of harnesses and webbing to keep customers in place. Those harnesses are there because the gimbal doesn't quite spin up fast enough, and you watch as the clientele bounce towards the bar in lazy arcs, or shift from table to table with graceful leaps. "What are you thinking?" asks Moritz, noticing you staring out into the gimbal. "How weird this place is?" Moritz glances around as if for the first time. "Yeah, Bliss never used to like coming here." Moritz takes a drink and stretches. "So, Sleeper, you sticking around?" Not sure." Moritz nods. "No pressure." Moritz rubs the back of his head. "One cycle at a time, that's how we'll take it. Nice and easy." You aren't sure if he is talking to himself or you. "We'll make it." He lifts his drink for a toast. "To the next cycle," he pronounces and knocks it back. Later, when you finally leave the gimbal, Moritz is still laughing. You help him out of the spinning gimbal and back into the hub, sending him on the way back home to the bay. Then you pause for a moment and watch the stars as they spin and spin around the eye. You smile to yourself and think of Bliss and Ankita out there somewhere, among those points of light. To the next cycle. So we hit the credits, but it didn't force us to stop. And we have 3 cycles to wait for this. What do we do in the meantime? Well, first we go feed the cat. After that, I have some ideas. What's this? The side reel? Being loaded and prepped among the commotion, is it possible to find a way on board? Well, that'd be pretty weird. I think finishing this starts a timer, so I'm not going to do all of that, but spoiler alert, after we finish, what am I saying? After we finish our conversations with Rabia and Sabine, that is going to be where we wrap things up. Secrets. They are fun. I think I need to do this to unlock the grow bed. Because I don't think any of these have a clock. Except for this one, where I need the club heads. Is this just going to be gear? Found some mushrooms to chomp on. Chomp. Okay. Fix the condition with some scrap components. Ba-da-da-da-ba-da-da-ba. Those dice are pretty bad. Hot take, Those dice are pretty bad. Do I re-roll? I re-roll. Okay. Ah, clubhead. Yeah. Clubhead, isn't that 2D shooter with the really nice animation style? It's a goof about Cuphead. Rico is at her bench, running small vials of some liquid through an old chemical analysis machine. The whirring of the spinning drum fills the lab with white noise, and you aren't sure if she notices your approach. Sleeper. It's good to see you. She looks up, smiling. This little project of ours has been keeping me awake the past few cycles. But right now, well, I think I have something. You should rest sounds a lot like you look tired, and don't do it. Don't do it. Don't say it. The drum finishes spinning, and Rico lifts a vial from it, holding it up to the light. This is something I extracted from those clubheads you've been bringing me. And according to my analysis, it is a substance totally unique on the Greenway. You look at the small amount of liquid in the vial. Any idea what it might be? Rico asks without looking away from the vial. Stabilizer. Rico nods. You aren't the first sleeper to come through here. Perhaps I should have mentioned that earlier. Rico's tone suddenly drops, changing the atmosphere in the lab immediately. I just thought... She pauses, thinking very carefully of how to continue. I just wanted you to trust us. What do you mean? She sighs. They came through a few cycles ago. He found them wandering in the broken section near the gap. The members who brought them in had never seen one of you before. They were terrified of this strange person wandering in from open vacuum. They were quieter than you, and damaged. We did our best to patch them up and welcome them to the commune. I only really spoke to them once while I was working on their wounds, along with a couple of systems engineers. She looks nervously at you. I had never seen a body like that before. So I took some readings, some samples. Samples? You have to understand. I was curious. I didn't know what I was looking at. I just took a little of the damaged material, less than a thumbnail. She shifts her weight to her crutch. The next cycle, they were gone. They took a little food and hiked up towards the wild margins, where the Greenway meets the wastes. Someone saw them in the distance, but that was it. They disappeared into the overgrowth. She sits down heavily, the vial in her hand. When I saw you, I wanted things to be different. I wanted to keep you here rather than let you disappear into wherever they ended up. She smiles to herself. Yes, I wanted to understand this place better, but I also wanted to help you. It seems that somehow, both my wishes have come true at once. She holds out a hand with the vial. This is for you. You take the stabilizer, the glass cold and smooth in your palm. How? Those clubhead caps were made it for you. Or at least who or whatever made those clubheads. She starts to clear her bench. I was right there, contained in their tissue. It was right there, contained in its tissue. I only had to extract it. I imagine you understand how incredible that is. I learned enough from that sleeper to know that your body, your frame, is it? Runs on some exotic technology. Exotic technology that has a time limit built in. Somehow, the Greenway knows that too. It understands your physiology much better than I ever could. It knows how to treat you. Just like that miraculous antidote that sprung from the mold, so too has this sprung from your presence here. The Greenway is speaking to you. It is welcoming you. She looks up. I know it sounds crazy, but I know it to be true. Here's the evidence. And what I also know is that it is no longer speaking to me. Even after decades here, I have never seen this kind of response. Not since the antidote so many cycles ago. She smiles. So, I'm going to make you a deal. You bring me as many club heads as you like. I'll extract the stabilizer and give it to you, freely. But you have to tell me what the Greenway says. You have to speak with it, to dig into it, to find what its being is at the center of it. I've traveled as far as I can. I need you to do the rest. Can you do that? Yeah. Rico sighs with relief and deflates into her chair. Thank you. I'm sorry for the other sleeper. I truly am. I'm sorry I couldn't have done more. But I'm so glad I met you, she smiles. You're welcome here any time. Rico falls silent. She looks smaller now, more fragile, and you realize how old she must be to have seen the collapse firsthand. You idle a little in the lab, in case she asks for anything else, but she remains silent. And so you drift back into the tunnel, thoughts of that other sleeper, and where they ended up, weighing on your mind. Grow your own, achievement unlocked. Become self-sufficient through botany. Became self-sufficient. The A and the O, you know. Hey, we got this from that cyber gardener, and we're going to plant it. I'll take good care of it, sleeper. Rico smiles. Don't you worry. That's 8 cycles. My goodness. We need 2 of the club heads. If you want to grow stabilizer, you're gonna need more club head mushrooms. Is that how the song goes? Does anyone know? Why do we have to do these one at a time? Citizen Sleeper. Citizen Sleeper, why do we have to do these one at a time? Oh, that's also a good one, Aubrey. Do you want to grow a club head? It doesn't have to be a club head. Okay, fungi. I've already done that. Do I need a ship mine part? I don't think I do. Sell me a club head. Okay. Alright, we're gonna do this next cycle, and then I think we will have that be our wrap-up point for this stream. Because we're getting close to the 3-hour mark. We're well beyond the hour mark, I must say. As you enter Rabia's office, you hear voices. Is that Sabine? You push open the door. Sleeper, what good timing. Rabia calls out as you enter. I wanted to introduce you to someone. The man is standing at the center of the room, speaking quietly with Rabia. He turns to you. He turns as you come in. Meet Yannick. Sleeper, he nods. Been hearing good things from Robbie. He smiles an easy smile. Alright, I need someone else's opinion. What vibes do we get from Yannick? That is the outfit. That is true. Do we get, let's be polite to Yannick which would be the first option? Do we get concern directed towards Rabia, which would be obviously the second option? Or do we just stand and stare, which would be the third option? None of these are incorrect choices. We'll be polite. Good to meet you. Likewise, likewise, he waves a ringed hand. Now, Robbie, where were we? Actually, Rabia places a hand on your shoulder, the sleeper was what I wanted to talk to you about. She doesn't spare you a look. What is going on? Well, okay then. Yannick tucks his hands into his pockets. Go on. I'd like to recommend them to your ward. A tiny pause. They have shown themselves to be a capable ally here on the Spoke side, but we have more than enough to run our territories. I hear the main block is proving more difficult. Yannick leans forward slowly. It's a mess, Robbie. He waits, his tinted glasses shimmering despite the lack of light in the unit. I can use them, he suddenly decides. Rabia smiles. Good to hear. I can immediately... Yannick cuts her off with a raised hand. 1 second. He steps one surprisingly light step closer to you. You eager to work, sleeper? Yes. Yannick nods his head as if listening to music. Okay then. You suddenly are unsure if he is talking to you. That's a great question, Aubrey. Are they sending me in as a sleeper agent? That concludes it, Yannick pronounces. Sleeper can come work in the ward, anytime they like. You shoot Rabia a confused look. Rabia finally glances at you for a moment, but it is so fast you almost miss it. Good, I know you'll be happy with their work, Yan. Yannick reaches out and squeezes her shoulder. Sure, Robbie, he says. Now please, he says, turning to face you. Let us old friends get back to it. He guides Rabia away, leaving you standing alone. You look to Rabia, but she is deep in conversation, and so, stunned and confused, you leave. I've got a little more time. I can work the ward a little bit. Okay. Slight improvement. Took some energy for a neutral. Might lose some condition on a negative. Yeah. Let's see if we can get a posi. Neutral. Okay. Oh, we've got 5 minutes. We've got 5 minutes. That only took 5 minutes. We can do another thing. I thought that scene was longer than it was, is what's really happening. I needed one more stabilizer. Or one more self-repair. Go ahead and do that now so I'm ready. It was a very short scene. I don't want to lose the condition, so we're going to do this one. Yeah. You almost laugh when you see it. The same small recorder stuck to a different wall this time. Written across the fluorescent tape is that familiar word, sleeper. You grab it quickly. Rabia says sorry. Sabine's voice sparks up once again. She said she didn't have time to brief you before setting you up with the old man. I'm sure you've got the play by now. Earn his trust, work the block. Then we need you to get into his office. A pause. It's risky, but obviously you're the only one of us he doesn't already know. Either way, we need to locate the link to SNARP. You hear a shout in the background of the recording. Rabia says be careful. Sabian continues. The data suggests there's some relay processing the implant data and sending it to SNARP, but we can't lock down its position. Either he is moving it, or it's moving itself, or it is rerouting through other relays. We can't understand it. Maybe you can find some details on it in his office. Once he trusts you, you should be able to get close enough to get into the office. You'll only get one shot. The recording creaks and whines. That's the final piece of this puzzle to end this. A pause. Good luck, Sleeper. I'm sorry, too. Be safe. The recording clicks off and leaves you in silence. You pocket the recorder just in case and walk away. Looks like it is up to you. It's a critical action, so we only have one chance at it. I want to have at least a 4. That's at least a 4. You look at the countermeasure on the drawer. It looks like some kind of shock trap. If you'd grab the drawer, you'd likely have thousands of volts running through your system right now. You wince. Once you find the anchor points, it comes away easily enough. You prise it from the drawer and, quickly and quietly, then listen for footsteps in the corridor outside. Nothing. All clear for now. You slide the drawer open, looking for other countermeasures that may be inside, expecting to see a chunk of tech. The relay. But as you slip it open, all you see is a handful of wires and an empty implant cradle. Is this some kind of mistake? You freeze for a moment, unsure what to do next. Why keep an implant cradle so carefully guarded? You remember Yannick having an implant, a small plate on the side of his head, just above his ear. You assumed it was for hearing or vision. Those shimmering glasses of his come back to your memory. His strange movements, his speech. You look again at the cradle, and there it is, printed on the frame. Proprietary technology. Property of SNARP. Rabia said the relay moved, that they couldn't get a fix on it. What if Yannick was the relay? The thought hits you like a shock. Yannick, with a remote relay implanted in his head, networked to every single implanted enforcer in the low end. A shudder runs through you. Is he even in control? Or has SNARP wormed its way into the man? Could he even be considered separate from the corporation itself? You think of your own legal status as proprietary technology, a puppet with cut strings. Time to cut Yannick's strings, then. You reach across inside the cradle and find it, a remote connection, a tiny bead of a transmitter, likely controlling the link to SNARP. There it is. You pause for a moment, then you squeeze it, snap it from the frame, and it crumples, sparks, and dies. It takes a moment before the shouts come, before the scream, and you are already on your way out, down the corridor, down through the unit that serves as the lobby to Yannick's office. Then out of the walkway where Yannick lies still, enforcers gathered around him, bemused. Yeah. Huh. Do we approach or do we beat it? Do we make tracks? You know what? We're gonna approach. You push through the crowd, and there he is, still crumpled. You arrange him a little, lie him down properly, feeling how thin his body is under his suit. You wonder how long he has been like this, a puppet for Essenarp. With the connection cut, nothing remains but his body, which means that Yannick the man was gone a long time before now. You place a hand on his chest. You are sorry for him, but it is done now. And you did not kill this man. You've seen enough. The connection is cut, and whatever Yannick was, or had become, is gone. Your anger is a hard core in your chest, and all of it is focused on Essenarp. Whew. Whew. What a note to end on. On the other hand, that would have been an interesting tone setter to start with next time. Literal puppet, yes, absolutely. Very gross. But again, like with a lot of things in this game, not something I couldn't see happening. When you critique hypercapitalism, there's some gross stuff with it. Can I just do some work here? Yeah, I can do some work here. All right. Not a cheery note to end on, but I'm glad we hit that plot beat before wrapping up, because that would have been a weird one to start on next week. We need to let that seed grow, and we need to wait for this clock to run through. I did root out the corporate puppet. We're going to quit the menu and get some atmospheric music to close out. The mushrooms are growing. Thanks for watching, everybody. I continue to adore this game. Oh, it's so good. Oh, what a good game. It tackles some stuff that games generally don't, and I am thankful for that, because I think that these are conversations that have to be had, or that should be had. Oh yeah, Aubrey says, YouTube watchers, remember to pre-order the book, please. And I'm going to drop a link in the chat, joshcloss.com/transpiratemermaid, or any combination of the words after joshcloss.com/ so mermaid pirate trans should work. I have not fully tested this. Yeah, you can click on those, because I have forgotten the order they go in at least once. And so I just said, you know what? All those URLs should work. And so they do. It's a book about a pair of mermaid sisters, one of whom is trans, who are called to save the world from an impending crisis. And one of them follows the call, and the other says, nope, I'm out of here, and becomes a pirate. Both of those are valid strategies, but I mean, becoming a pirate, that's pretty good. And you follow both of their stories, and you see how they intersect down the line, and it's very good. And I think very sweet. Extremely queer. There's some sword fighting. There are even cis mermaids. There are non-binary merfolk. It's all happening. Is there anything else to say? If you click that link, you can pre-order the book. It's coming out October 10th, which is a little under 3 weeks somehow. And you can get it for $5.99 for the ebook version, which is going to be in PDF and EPUB formats. Or you can get it for the Kindle version, which I don't personally recommend, or the Barnes & Noble version. There are so many versions, y'all. And the audiobook is $10. Currently, you can pre-order that at itch.io, which is also where I recommend you get the ebook generally. Words. I sent in the files to Audible. I haven't heard back, so don't know on that front. Who knows? It's almost like Amazon should be critiqued and does bad things. I mean, I am much better off than many people under Amazon's heel. But, yeah. I don't want you to pre-order it through Amazon or Audible. I'm just putting them there because I know some people won't order them from anyone else. And I want people to read it. Yeah. Not a big fan of their whole system. Is there anything else to say? You can vote for August Mina again tomorrow. I'll be making a lot of noise on Twitter. I'll be making more noise here on Thursday when we play more Star Ocean 2. I still need to go in and do some level grinding between now and then. Which I'll be watching a movie or something while I do it, so that'll be fun, but it would not be good stream content. So, what is my favorite soup? So, my favorite soup is I never know if the G is silent or not, but Avgo Lamano soup or Alpha Lamano soup, which is essentially chicken noodle soup, Greek chicken noodle soup with a lot of lemon. Oh, it's so good. If I'm out to eat at a restaurant that doesn't have such things, that'll be weird because I haven't been out to eat at a restaurant in a long time. But if I'm ordering from a restaurant, then a baked potato soup goes down real smooth. I like a tomato soup. I like a chicken noodle soup. All very good. Raven, I have terrible news. We are just wrapping up. Thank you for showing up, though. The great news is that you're here, because that's always great news. I don't really know anyone who's streaming, so I don't know who to raid. Do any of y'all have raid recommendations? Tomato soup on its own, sometimes I'm okay with. Tomato soup with a grilled cheese? Oh, forget it. Amazing. We could just talk about soup for a little bit with this atmospheric music in the background. I would not have a problem with that. I do love a good tomato. Good guy GK. Let me actually cut the desktop audio so I can check out this pal. Raising money for the Trevor Project. I don't know how long term that is. We've got an ad to start with. Good Guy GK has been going for 3 hours also. I don't know how much longer that stream's gonna go. Just poking around. That J Justice. Oh, I forgot to do the slash. Is this Horizon? We got Splatoon and we got Horizon. J Justice going for 2.5 hours. I mean, I don't know how long either of these folks go. Critical Bard. Let's go Critical Bard. It's a roller derby game. All right, yeah, Critical Bard. Yeah, that J Justice, solid vibes from what I saw. All right. Thanks again for watching, y'all. We'll be back on Thursday. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. And let's go say hi to Critical Bard. Bye.